The Remote Invitational, the pinnacle of competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2021. 2020 was the year I was going to get my first YCS stop. Sadly, the world had different plans. Now, 1 year later, we finally have official sanctioned events again, even though it's through remote dueling. It might not be the same, but at least it's something. When the extravaganza and the invitational were announced, I set myself a goal. I needed to be invited. After achieving my goal, I now have 1 week left to prepare myself for the Remote Invitational, a 16-man knockout live-streamed event. In this mini-series, I'll take you through my week, telling my competitive story. How did I get there? How did I prepare? Welcome to my competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Journey, the Remote Invitational. Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to episode 2 of my competitive journey. Today we are going to talk about preparations and testing for the event. And yeah, yesterday I actually spent the entire night at Sam's house, Suffer YGO on Twitch, testing decks, playing everything I can, and trying to get more knowledge of Yu-Gi-Oh! In this meta. Because even though I play on weekly amounts, and I played in the extravagances, and I played in the qualifier, there still is a lot of things that I don't know yet, and I'm gonna talk about that in a little bit. If you haven't caught up on this journey yet, be sure to check out episode 1, where I talk about how I got my qualification for the Invitational and kind of get a more heads up on what everything is about and what this means to me and stuff like that. And this episode will be purely on analyzing the best strategy and everything that I can do. And yeah, let's get to work. So the Remote Invitational is a 16 participant event. Now, luckily we live in 2021 and all the information that we want is out there on the internet. So I actually made a list of what everyone topped with. And the meta for this event is quite diverse. We had players topping with, we had one player topping with Paleo Frog, Guru Nomeron, Madolce. Then we had a couple of Eldritch variants. We had Invoked Eldritch, 2 Zodiac Eldritch. Then we have double Dragon Link players. And then we have 7 virtual role players. Wow. So the thing that I did yesterday while testing with Sam was trying to analyze all these decks and trying to, get a read. Of course, I didn't forget about Drytron. That deck is still here, but it's just getting hard countered so much. But there's a lot of philosophy for this event that I will talk about a little later. But analyzing this already tells a lot. There's almost 50% playing Virtual World, which is quite a lot. And it is pretty safe to say that most of these players will stay on Virtual World because they have probably been playing this for a while. And the only thing that you can really be scared about is that you don't really know how the mirror plays out. But that's honestly quite fine. Then we had a bunch of rogue players, which we also have to keep in account because you don't want to lose to random Paleozoic frogs. It's awful to lose to. But no, these are all pretty good players. They have had to be qualified for the Invitational qualifier, and then they had to go into the top 4. So it's pretty safe to say that these people kind of know what they're doing. Except that guy that plays Numeron Guru, that's kind of, ew. That's a joke. That's a joke. Or is it? So what I learned from this is I know most of these decks, but I wanted to be extra sure. So we picked out a Dragon Link deck, and Sam and I started just building it and playing it and exploring the deck a little bit, because this was one of the decks that I really wasn't familiar with. And it is bound to be played on this event. Dragon Link has been evolving throughout the years an insane amount. After the Thunder Dragons got dropped because of Colossus, people were playing, of course, Guard Dragon Arcbane, and then it switched to Savage Control and Rocket Control, and now people are on Rocket Synchron, and this deck just keeps evolving. And I've been playing this deck for quite a while. I actually played it with the hand loop version a lot, but I haven't played the current iteration. So I found it very important to build this deck, play this deck, think out what it should do and how it should be played, so whenever I play against it, I'm not surprised by what they're doing or by their extenders. So yeah, in testing we played this a lot. I played this myself, I played against it myself, against one of the lists that topped the event, and we kind of built our own version a little bit. And I learned so much from this alone. Like, just playing the deck that you expect your opponent to play gives you so much information already. You just learn so much from playing it out. You learn the ceiling of the deck, you learn the choke points, you learn the extending points, what can you expect. And it helped so much just playing out this deck. After being done with Dragon Link, we kind of switched around a little bit. I decided to play a little bit of Drytron and a little bit of Virtual World. These were two decks that I still kept open as an option to play myself, but I really wasn't like feeling it. Drytron is definitely a deck that you can play, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But Virtual World, even though I felt kind of competent and confident with the deck, I did figure in the end that I will probably lose the mirror every time because I don't know what I'm doing and I just suppose my opponent does. So this deck was actually written off pretty quickly, even though it's one of the best decks right now and it's highly like consistent. I really didn't want to play this deck. So after that, I decided, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a little bit about fun too, and I didn't want to like focus on like grinding matches and siding every game. So we just played like some random stuff. I picked up my PKBA to test it a little bit again, and it has a pretty good Tritron matchup and also a pretty good Virtual World matchup, so that's still a contender. I played some Bird Up again, and that deck is just a lot of fun, but it's really not for me. I played that one event, and one event was enough. Do I expect it for this tournament? Actually, it could be. The deck is pretty good. Those Tri-Brigades are very, very strong, and their effects are really wild. They're just cheating out monsters from the extra deck. It's really something else. Then Madolche, I've been playing against Madolche for years now. I really know what that does, what that deck does, and I'm not really afraid of that. It's kind of matchup dependent though. Guru Numeron is literally the two decks that I know. And Paleozoic Frog, I've been playing Paleo with the 60 card back in the day, and I've been playing it a little while after. And I'm gonna be confident to say that I kind of know what this deck does and that I am ready for it in case I have to play against it. So what's interesting about this event compared to other events is simply the amount of rounds. If you go to a big regional or YCS, you are going to sit down for 7 to 9 rounds of Swiss. And the goal of those events is of course to win. And how do you win? By getting a consistent deck. Because a consistent deck bricks the least amount of times. It might not be the best deck, it might not be the most explosive deck, but you need to get through those rounds. If you play like a very high wombo combo deck, then there's a big chance that you're gonna brick like at least 1 or 2 games, and you want to try to minimize that amount as much as possible. Which is why a deck for local could be great, but a deck for YCS might suck. Which is why Thunder Dragon combo did great on like mini events, but on the YCS level it actually fell a little bit inconsistency. Especially over Sky Striker, which was really a consistent deck, which is why it did so well. Because the deck could perform for 9 rounds in a row without question, but that combo deck is just such a high variety of you not breaking and then your opponent like not having interrupts as well. What that means for this event is there is a top 16 cut immediately. This is single elimination, so at most you'll be playing the top 16, the top 8, the top 4, and then the finals. So that means that there are only 2 players that will actually play 4 matches in this entire event. So this kind of makes a little bit different dynamic from what you are used to at YCSs and deck building and stuff like that. If you look back a little while at the European Championship in Utrecht, this was the time that the Worlds race still was on and people were fighting for Worlds points, because the top 8 players with the most Worlds points actually got to fight it out in a Swiss style event, or I believe it was single elimination, not really sure. And the top 2 players of that event went to Worlds. And what did you see in this Sky Striker filled meta is that everyone was actually playing combo. They were all playing very high combo decks because, you know, they better out it, you know. There's a very high risk, high reward style of game there because you only have to play 4 rounds. So the risk of like bricking or them having outs to your deck, it's like significantly lower than if you have to play 8 rounds. Like, just pick up a deck yourself and lay out 4 opening hands and then lay out 8 opening hands, and you'll see that the 4 opening hands have a very less amount of times that they brick versus 8 only to, you know, share amount of opening hands. And that works together as well with these small events. For a small regional, you can get away with picking up a rogue deck because you just need 4 wins. But if you need to go to a YCS with a rogue deck, you need to win like 8 times, which is very high and really not that safe to bet on. So for an event like this, people could actually be switching up their decks. The list that I made was the decks that they were topping with. But this is not a guarantee for the decks they'll be playing. Just like me, I'm not sure if I'm going to play Eldritch Dragoon. I might just play Bird Up because it has a pretty good matchup against most of these decks. Especially if the Virtual World players switch up their decks a little bit. A deck that hasn't seen play this format, which I was going to talk about later, and here I am, is Drytron. Drytron gets hard countered by a lot of cards, but if we look at this top 16, there is no Drytron deck list in any of the decks they played. So now you can do two things. One, choose to not side against Drytron at all, because you expect it won't be there. Or, you do side against Drytron because you expect it. Now these are two options already. You either waste 3 cards in your side deck if it's not there, or you made the correct call, but then there's still a chance that you have to play against the deck, because there are 16, you're not playing against everyone, so there's not a guaranteed chance you're actually going to play against Drytron. So as you can see, this dynamic for a tournament like this is already like super different and very much weird. Like you cannot like just throw your dart to the wall and see where it sticks, and that's the strategy we're going for. There's a lot to think about here, because these players might as well just switch, because right now no one is... It's technically not correct to side for Drytron, because it's not represented at all. But there might just be someone playing it. And if you're against him round 1, you better have an answer. Because if you are not prepared for one deck, then you might not be going to the second round at all. So this kind of raises the question. You're gonna go like all in with your seeding and play a deck like Drytron or like super heavy Dragon combo? Or are you just gonna go for like a more mundane version of Dragon Link or like Virtual World? Or are you gonna take another step back and play a total control deck, like try to not get fucked over by anything, and they better have their Harpy's Feather Duster? There are a lot of options that you can pick in this dynamic, and I am still very much unsure on what I will do. There are a lot of things that I still want to test. I still think Drytron is one of the best decks out there right now, and I'm still gonna test that out a little bit. But Dragon Link also has been a lot of fun for me, and that deck is really cool right now. I did not expect to like it as much as I did. So during testing I learned that I don't really know every deck quite well, but I also concluded that it isn't certain what I'll be playing against. And that really makes it very difficult. Are you going to play it safe or are you going to play it high risk? I still haven't decided on that yet. If you were qualified for this event, be sure to let me know in the comment section what you would be playing in a situation like this. But yeah, the dates are closer and closer and closer. We are currently still 1 week away. Yeah, I'm gonna participate locals. I'm gonna test out a little bit of fun decks. I'm still not entirely sure what I'm going to do, what I'm going to play, what I'm going to test. Still don't know if my side deck is correct, my main deck will be correct. There is still a lot of time, and I'm happy you're here for the journey with me. If you like this series, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. There are 2 more episodes to come. One will be Friday, the day before the event, and the last one will be on Sunday, hopefully after my first place deck profile. Or otherwise there'll be a video talking about how I lost my 1 match. And yeah. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Bye guys!